Hi, it's me, future, past, present Cone. We had a bit of a problem. Actually, quite a bit of a problem. Windows did that really cool thing where it restarted the computer in the middle of the night and did a Windows update. As it does, you know, just a thing that Windows does. It's just real cool. And it also did that thing where it reset all the audio devices, and OBS went, all of these are new. I should make all of these default. So between Windows and OBS, the forces to be have made it that there's zero audio recorded from any of the 3 races this week. I've painstakingly gone through and re-recorded all of the races in replay to capture the in-car audio. Sadly, nothing can be done about the actual commentary from me or Jam or anyone else, so it's just gonna be past, future, me, present, Cone, and myself, giving you a post-commentary about this weekend's races. Sorry. And heavy sigh. Alright, shall we begin? Alright, so the first race of the week, as I kick my computer, was the street stocks at Iowa. I actually qualified on pole here, which was quite a surprise because I spent so much time practicing for the SRF race. Pretty much a shock to me that I was on pole for the street stock race. And we get a clean getaway into turn 1. I'm surprised by that. I thought Games was going to be right alongside me there. Despite the very worried look on my face, I think I actually maintained my cool pretty well here. Jem qualified further back. He had a pretty rough qualifying run, and obviously we're going into this race, I think, just 1 point ahead of Jem in the points, and this is the season finale, so every point matters, as they say. I just realized that I never actually checked to make sure this recording was getting audio, but it looks like it in fact is. Alright, so it looks like a pretty standard breakaway. There's some racing going on in the mid-pack here. This is the first kind of track we've run like this where it's a medium oval. It's not really a short track, it's not really a speedway. It's somewhere in the middle. And I expected this race to go pretty cleanly. It looks like Yames has closed in right to us. Ben's hanging on pretty tight, but Sharky and the others starting to drop back a bit. I don't know where Jem even is in the field. Oh, here's Yames, got to run on the outside. How nervous do I look? Pretty nervous. I like that I can see my eyes in the webcam. I'm always looking at the mirror in the turns and not necessarily where I am on track. Alright, so now we've been side by side, and that's brought the whole, front of the pack back together. Iowa's an interesting track. It's variably banked, so every dotted line you see on the track is basically a tiny little increase in the amount of banking. The inside lane is the fast lane, but the reality is, in this car, you want to use the whole track to be fast. So the inside lane and the outside lane, or like that middle, end up being pretty much identical in pace because of the difference in the compromise of banking. I don't even know how many laps it's been now, but we're still side by side. So what we're doing here, I mean, generally we're trying to give each other enough space. The thing that's hard for me is I don't have any view. I'm a horse with blinders on, so I don't have any idea where Yames is other than through my ears, listening to the car audio, listening to his engine, and then occasionally I'll see I see a little blip of them in the rearview mirror there. And then, you know, now I've got, because we're side by side, I've got Ben looking up the inside here. So I've got to keep in mind that I can't just leave the bottom totally open. Games tries to squeeze me down a little bit there to try to, that's what you got to do when you're on the outside. You got to squeeze the inside car down to try to make it so they don't get that good run out of the turn. Ooh, a little bump from Ben there. I think I get a little bit more, well, yeah, a little bit more of one out of the turn too. And that almost puts us 3 wide. It's very close to 3 wide at this point, but somehow I think that little bump actually gave me a little boost of speed, so we've now kind of pulled back ahead of games a little bit. All the while, I think Jem is still back in like 6th place, so this would have been a really good day at this point. I'm happy with what I'm doing there. You know, I feel like we raced each other nice and clean, but I was trying things. Like I was trying to open my entries and try to force him to take a compromised line on the turn in so that I could turn in sharp, get to the bottom of the track, and try to clear him and get back in front of him. That was the goal anyway. It's hard though. It is hard to do that, and especially hard to do that when there's cars behind you, because you can't just think about the person you're racing. You got to think about if people are getting runs on you from behind. So these laps right here, where the two of us are kind of broken away, really important ones. That's a little bit of my inexperience there. I could be running way closer to him on exit, and it wouldn't compromise my exit as bad. I'm really burning my tires up because I'm basically running a shorter track than he is. Like, this track is tighter for me than it is for him. Therefore, I'm having to put more energy into the tires. Yeah, I felt like I ran him up the track enough there, but I should stay with him up there instead of giving him room down. So for whatever reason, I think maybe, like I said, tires starting to get angry. Ben is closing back in at a rapid pace here, because he's getting to use the whole track. Got ahead of him there. I'm trying to see. I don't think there's any point where I'm ahead of him at the start-finish line, though. So that wouldn't work out. That was something I was keeping in mind. Like, at what point do I just focus on trying to be ahead of the line and just realizing we're going to be side by side for the rest of the race? This is the kind of stuff you don't get in public racing, though. If you don't have kind of like that respect for the people that you're racing, you never see constant side by side like this, because somebody's going to get frustrated. Somebody's going to move somebody out of the way eventually. Not to say that doesn't happen, you know, when you're racing with people you know, but it's possible to have races like this. I appear to be having fun, and I was. This was actually a ton of fun. Probably the most fun street stock race we've had. All right, Ben's very close now. He's got a decision. Is he going to help me, or is he going to try to pass us both? If I was him, what I would be trying to do is convince me to drive into the turn deeper so that I push James up the track, and then whoop, you go from third to first. Yeah, he just gets such a good run out of the turn there. He's clear at the line again. Or not clear, but clearly ahead. I'm trying to use a little bit of that higher bank here. Ben's got a decent run, and he's kind of like looking in the middle, which is not a good idea for him. That's a really bad idea for him. But it causes me to enter too deep. And then on exit, Ben gets a good run. And unfortunately, instead of going below me, he decides to hit the back of my car, which upsets the car and finally lets James clear. I'm pretty pissed about that, so I decide that I am not going to let Ben, you know, have the track. I'm going to run him right down to the bottom of the track and take the track away from him. That's racing. You get raced how you race others. That's how this works. In that whole kerfuffle, though, Ben's going to get a little shuffled back here, and that, like, 3rd to 7th group really gets brought together. Yeah, Jem's up to 5th place now. James not exactly driving away from me, but my tires are pretty angry. I clipped the apron right there, which wasn't fantastic. Sharky decides that his mid-turn is much better than mine, and therefore he deserves to go full speed through the middle of the turn. But you see what he does there. That's a different level of respect. Just, he hit me, he didn't mean to, he immediately backed out of the throttle and made sure I got it pointed straight. Two laps to go here. I had no chance of catching James at this point. The only chance I had was staying side by side with him, especially how much I use the car. What I want to know is where Jem is at in all of this, and I don't want to lose the position to Sharky because I want, you know, every single little point. Looking behind us, I'm very upset that Jem's about to pass Sharky, but Sharky does clear him, and all is well there. There we go. Other than the fact that Jem just completely died at the end of that, we moved to the SRF race on the road course in Iowa. I'm starting 5th. I had a pretty lousy qualifying in the SRF race. I just couldn't, for whatever reason, I could not manage to get the car to behave. Jem is on pole, James in 2nd, which is a surprise because James has been at least, I would say, half a second quicker than everybody here. As always, just a killer start for me. So I get around Ben and Colonel right at the start, which is very good news because you'll see, turn 2 here is scary. Come off the banking, car wiggles, it's decreasing radius, everybody driving in too deep, and then right here, Jem just went off into the off-track zone, which he was very upset about. He was just like, I can't believe I'm throwing, blah, blah, blah. Jem has a little bit of a... He gets worried that he cracks under pressure, basically. And that was his fault. So he has to give up, like, 5 seconds right there, it seemed. He drops all the way back to 5th. Which was great news for us. It's a really... I despise this track. Because, like, driving it is fine, but the off-track areas, the cutting penalty areas, are so vague and so they cut all of the fun out of racing this track. So you see right here, that curb, if you have your left tires like, whoop, if you have your left tires over the white line, basically you instantly get a cutting penalty. However, it's not explicit. You know what I mean? Like if you have your tires over the line in one spot, it's fine. But if you have it, you know, a foot down the track, it's not fine. So I get the same penalty on the following turn that he got his, and it drops me back to, what, 7th? And he's back at 9th. Jim's still pissed because his penalty took longer to clear than mine, but we're both at this point just like, all right, how do we get through this? We both want to race for the championship. We don't want it to be decided by a wreck. How do we get through this and just, you know, remain calm? And we didn't. We just feverishly worked our way through this vehicle. In my mind, what I wanted to do most desperately was to keep Jem behind me until after we cleared traffic. So where are we here? P7? Yes. Powers, I think, got a penalty previously, so he gives it up there, I think. Jem had a big run there, but he decides to not go for that opportunity. Here, I'm trying to get a good exit out of the turn there because everybody's running wide, so I could try to get under Neon, but it didn't pan out. So we get one for Powers there, but we both get that spot, so it doesn't really matter. Oh, Jem's got a big run up the inside. I didn't remember this. I'm going to try and hold him tight. Yeah. We've got the draft of Neon. Oh, right. Okay. So I'm on the outside now, which isn't great. Colonel kind of misses the turn. Which compromises Neon. I try to get back under him. Oh, I do get under him here. Wow. This is aggressive. See, I'm just trying everything I can to clear track. Oh, right. Colonel has the penalty there or something, but he pretty much stops in front of me. I have to lift. I got Powers right at my butt here. Scoot in behind Jem, pick up his draft. I've got Powers right on me, so I'm not going to lift. I think I can read my own lips there, and I just said I had Powers up my butt. And then I said something like, well, that's awkward. Just flirting with those off tracks. Well, it's not really, it's flirting with the penalties. I get back under Jem here. Nehan gets a penalty. So he gets an off track or cutting penalty he's got to give up. So just on this lap, we go from 6th to 5th, but Jem gets in front of us. Right. Okay, so from this point, I'm pretty much just seeing that I knew the whole weekend. Jem had me covered. Like, I put more practice into this race than I've done for pretty much the whole season. He found some magic jumping gains for this track. He had me by probably 2 or 3 tenths a lap on actual raw pace. So what I'm going to try and do is just stay with him, because the way the points work, you know, it's only a 1 point gap between us. I got a point from the last race. I already had a point going in. All I have to do is finish behind him, and I'm fine. So I just want to stay with him as close as I can and make sure there's never any cars between us. So we're going to catch Squid most likely by the end of this, you know, and then probably also catch Ben. For me, the big thing was how do I stay right behind Gem and make sure that those cars don't get between us. Such an awkward little track. Very, very awkward. I just wish iRacing would do something to make the penalty zones a little bit more obvious. Even if there was an option to toggle in practice some kind of track overlay that, like, painted the areas you can't go red, or areas that will cause a penalty, you know, in red or something, or like, you know, some kind of overlay on the track, just like the racing line. Just so you could see where exactly the issues are, where you can't go, what is actually legal or not, instead of just kind of having to vaguely find out through practice. I don't find that to be a particularly fair way for it to work. Which I understand is kind of how it works in the real world too. F1 certainly had their issues with that, and I feel pretty similarly about that. Like, if there's areas you can't go, they need to be clear. They need to be obvious. Gem just constantly flirting with the off-tracks here. I can definitely tell he's got his car set up a lot looser than mine too. The way it, like, just rotates and pitches through the turns. So Ben, he has a slowdown. Oh, I think what I heard after the race is somebody, like, called him on his phone and it freaked out. Something like that happened. Someone talked to him. Too bad for him. He was having a great run. So up to P4, Gem to P3. Squid pretty much loses it there. Good catch. It does put him between us, though. Thankfully, he decided, you know what? I've played factor enough in these championships. I'm just gonna get out of here. Which is fair because, you know, he did slip, and maybe he had a penalty there. I'm not sure. Oh, big lock up from Gem there. I don't remember that. That closes us right back to him. I'm pretty jovial through all this, because there's nothing I can do. Like, pretty much literally, all I could do was try to make laps and stay where I was. There was nothing I could do that would change the championship picture other than just getting through these races. The only factor that mattered was whether or not Gem won the last race, because if you win the last race, you get 5 bonus points. You know, it's always been that case. The feature winner gets 5 bonus points. So it's basically going to boil down to, if we both finish near each other, do one of us win the last race? So this race, I'm pretty focused on just keeping the track tidy, keeping the car tidy, and you know, getting 3rd place. I did start running some pretty decent laps here. Never anywhere close to as fast as those two. Even my optimal, I think, was a half second down on theirs. So obviously they had some magic beans here that I don't have. Frankly, still at this point, I'm impressed that I was ever this close because Yames runs these cars regularly. Like he is a SRF regular. He runs leagues in SRF. He has the fancy setups. You know, he knows what he's doing with these cars. Apex, I don't think Apex like this car. So to even be remotely relevant to him is something that I'm pretty proud of. And then it's not very often that I'm this competitive with Jam either, so clearly something clicked with me for this car. Doesn't help, or it doesn't hurt that Jem just despised this car the whole season. My face looks so much different in these races than it does in the street stop races. I have a very blank racing face. Just like... Yeah, I'm sure Yames is pedaling, but he's not exactly driving away from us. Ooh, Jem, look how loose his car is. Yeah, he definitely had that thing. And I did find out after the fact he was using a pretty dramatically different setup from me. I tried the same setup he was using, and pretty much exactly what you saw there. The car just was too unpredictable. I didn't like it, and I didn't think running something that risky made any sense for me here. The draft, as if I had a chance to pass him. That is one thing that frustrates the hell out of me with Jem, Yames, and even Sharky can be that way too. Is like, even when they're just untouchably fast, they still pull out all the stops of like all the little tricks you can do to try to keep the car behind you from catching or staying with you. It's like, come on now. Is that really necessary? This is why I'm not a race car driver. I don't know who kept setting up these races to be right at sunset, so there would always be a turn where the sun's in your eyes, but that guy's a real jerk. White flag. Just gotta be cool from here. I mean, I'm kind of like, in my mind, I'm like, if I stay close enough, you know, he could make a mistake, but just like I said, with the 5 points in the final race, it's really not gonna matter. All I have to do is see him. As long as I can see him on the track, and he's not winning, then we're good. Run there. I really did pick up a lot of time. I usually do in the actual races, just because I get to actually see what these guys are doing. In practice, they're really good about making sure that I don't see what they're doing. They don't want me to just sit around and follow them. There we go. Race number 1, second and third for us. The classic Yames Jem Cone, and then Squid Neon, putting Neon, I think, on pole position for the feature race. Looking pretty happy. Yep, Neon, Squid, Cone, Jem, Yames, Powers, Derp, Sharky, Javin, Ben, NCW, Root, Colonel, Kuma, Apex, and Arambos. Obviously a little bit darker for the second race. so the sun won't be as much of an issue. I'm gonna have, you know, Gem to the inside, Yames to the outside. Honestly, not the best reaction time, but my ability to get power down, honestly, as we all know, only me and Gem get clear of the pack. Turn 1 and 2. The only thing I'm ever going to give myself credit for of actually being good at racing is starts, launches, especially standing starts. I don't know if doing F1 for all those years has helped, but it's possible. This is a fantastic start. I am very clear. Got 7/10. This is the point where you find out what you really got, because Jem's he's gonna put the hammer down. He's gonna be qualifying laps, you know, and I'm gonna be not, because I don't want to wreck. Like, if I spin, if I lose control, if I wreck, then it's not gonna matter who wins. I'm not gonna have enough points. So I'm pretty timid into turn 2, 3 here. I could have been way more aggressive there. So now Gem is right here with us. My neutral face looks a little bit more like a scowl now. Gem to the outside. I'll probably say something like, that's bold. Doesn't work for him. Interestingly, Yames only in 4th place right now. Did not have as good a start. See on the Delta, I'm 8/10 up this lap. It's because I'm running very compromised lines to keep Gem behind me. There's some strategy there too of, if I can keep Gem behind me and slow him down, it gives Yames a better opportunity to catch us. And in this race, Yames is my friend, because if Yames wins, then I win the championship, because he's going to get the bonus points, and as long as I finish remotely close to Gem, we're good. Gem looking on the outside here. Let it down into turn fairly aggressively. Keep it tight enough that he can't get the inside. As much as I hate the track, it's fairly racy. Like, there's opportunities to pass here. If it wasn't for the off-track stuff, if it wasn't for the cutting penalty zones, it'd probably be one of my favorites. I didn't see that. Ben must have had a wreck or something at the start, because he's down in 16th after such a good run in the first race. Oh, Gem, holy crap. Gem wasting no time. He knows what he has to do. He has to win. And I'm going to say, nicely done. Gem says he really did not talk in these races. Usually he's pretty chatty, but today he was focused. Now we got Yames right behind me. I'm not gonna let him go. Like, I'm still a race car driver. Such a lie. I still want to win the race though. Like, I still want to do as best I can. So I'm not just gonna like pull over and let him go just because I know if he wins. Oh, I forgot the Gem hit me there. What a punk. What an absolute punk. Yeah, I don't know. It's just not me. It would be the smart thing to do. Give James as many laps as I can to get by Gem, but I mean, it's inevitable anyway. He's so much faster. That's 48.8. That's a good second off of what James is capable of. Yeah, not a great run for him there. I guess I compromised his entry through the oval and just kind of got him offline. Oh, I missed. I totally missed the apex on the last turn. Last turn here is 100% what I was missing. I feel like if I could have gotten another 2/10 out of that turn, then I could have actually been racing for the win here. But it just wasn't happening. So there he goes. Now all I have to do is not get passed by Squid and watch. I am a spectator with all of you now. Honestly, I think the thing I was most nervous about, and this is stupid, was that Gem was going to get an off-track penalty. And that's what was going to take him out. Because I just didn't want it to go down that way. I'm just hoping to stay close enough to them so I can see what happens. Oh, I didn't see Gem. Gem about screwed up right there, because if you pick up one of those cones and get stuck in the front of the car, it slows you down like a second a lap. I didn't even notice that happen. Look how much they're gapping. Alright. James up the inside. Gem's gonna try and run it next to him. Decides to go back in line now. This pleases me. We're only just over halfway in this one, so there's a lot left to do. And because of this draft on the oval part of the track, James is not going to run away. So we're going to have this situation where Gem's going to pass him back through the draft. This makes me unhappy. It does bring me back to them. Them having to pass each other into 2 and 3 does keep me right up in here with the fight. I love how much I'm leading into that last turn. It helps, okay? And here they go again. James at the inside. Gem just goes, okay. Oh, goes to the crossover. Now James has the inside. I am right up here with them. What I want more than anything is to get in between them, but it didn't happen. I probably could have forced the issue a bit more, but I would have risked spinning him out, and that would suck. I'm not going to spin him out to win. He's back. Oh, gem. Yang's there, hits the cones. He's hitting them with the left front, so it's a little bit safer, but still. End up in a bad situation. I'm checking the time. This race feels like it takes forever. Game's gonna go the outside. He brushed the wall right there, actually. Takes the outside. Clears before the turn. Still draws me right back in. I've got to get up to gem and try to get it to him. Only if I can figure out this last time. So it's got to be one of my best laps. That was indeed my best lap. Good job, pass cone. More than anything, what I want is to just keep Gem nervous that I'm there. Woo, games is wide. We have powers off the track, I think. Every time I go through there, I can just tell I'm losing tons of time to them. Gem show on the outside. Which is interesting because it's putting games very offline. It's making games run defensive. So what I want to do to Gem, I just can't get close enough. See, if this was NASCAR, I would have just got on the brakes late into that turn and knocked Gem out of the way. Easy peasy. I've just been like, oops, didn't make a turn. Ooh, game's very loose there. How he doesn't get a track penalty there, I don't understand. Like, he was all 4 tires off the track, and it's just like, no, that's fine. It's infuriating. Alright, do we come into white flag or no? We've got a good run here, actually. This is another good lap. I certainly was putting down everything I could. With every bit of pace I have. On the outside, now he's looking in. Games covers pretty well there. Still really slow out of 3. Which is going to keep us both right in the neighborhood. White flag in the air. And I've botched up the last turn yet again. So it's all them. Let's see what happens. That's all it took. That's all it took. He did everything he needed to do. Everything he needed to do in this race, he did it. All he had to do was win. He went out and won. He definitely ran Yames right down the track, really pinched him down, got him loose into the turn, and that was that. All right, so where does that leave us? So here it is, the weekend results. Jem getting 91 points, Yames getting 88, and I get 86 points. Another really good weekend. I'm actually super proud of my results. And I think I did everything that I needed to do and everything that I could. However, it is how it is. That's enough points for Jem to pull back ahead, 602 to 598. I did have to get more points than him. We couldn't tie too, so pretty much Jem had to win, and he won. And he did it very well. He did it in a classy way, and he deserves it. I was immeasurably disappointed for sure, because it's not very often I get to be that competitive in these kinds of things. I don't know that there was any Conelanders or community thing that I ever won that I'm aware of. So it stung a little bit, but I was still pretty darn proud of just being relevant to them. Now, granted, if Yames actually had the ability to show up every week, then neither of us would have won anything. But you know, it's still in the moment. It felt very real. It felt very much so like, yeah, I'm fighting for a championship here, and it was fantastic. I was very, very bitterly disappointed that the audio was all messed up. I hope that this at least captured a percentage of the feeling, but I'm pretty heartbroken that we don't have the actual live emotion that went into it, because I think it was some of the best stuff I've probably ever recorded. So I'm more disappointed in that than in not winning the championship. It's gonna take me a little while to get over that. Root is our rookie of the season, and everybody is a winner, because this was probably, I think, one of the most successful adventures of a community style racing league that I've ever done. It was the least drama filled. Nobody really caused any issues. I didn't have to, fix any drama or anything like that. It was pretty smooth sailing. So thank you to everybody for that. Thanks to everybody that helped put it together, and thanks to those that stuck around and watched it. I appreciate it, and we'll see you later. Congrats again, Jem. You really did deserve it, and you do just constantly impress me.